chief guest, Dr. S. Pongodai ma'am. She is a professor in Department of Civil Engineering at Annamalai University. Her specializations are water resource engineering, watershed management, irrigation engineering, water quality in tsunami affected areas, remote sensing and GIS. She has 28 years of teaching and research experiences. And Pongodai ma'am published 2 national, 41 international journals and 9 national and 8 international conferences and 1 book. She is a member of Institute of Engineers, Soil Conservation Society of India, Indian Association of Hydrologists, Indian Water Resource Society, Indian Society for Technical Education. We are very happy to have you, ma'am, and we are very excited for the upcoming webinar. I welcome you, ma'am. Hand over to Pungodi, ma'am.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Dear friends, good morning to all. Dear friends, good morning to all. It gives me immense pleasure to meet you all in this webinar organized by the MAM College of Engineering Technology. Exclusively, I thank Dr. Sashikala, Head of the Department of Civil Engineering, for giving this nice opportunity. And let us see the applications of remote sensing and GIS for watershed management. Here, the watershed management based resources management is very important because the watershed consists of number of components. There is water, soil, flora and fauna, and people. So they all the projects must be integrated so that we can achieve the sustainable development. For achieving the sustainable development, we need some innovative techniques. So today we will see the intro on, because as I came to know, the participants are from UG, PG and teachers level. For UG students, it is necessary to give introduction. What is a watershed? Here, you are seeing a watershed, the pictorial representation, and the watershed consists of the forest, farmland, and we get the runoff from the river. So it's the macro level of watershed is nothing but river basins. The micro level of river basin is nothing but the watershed. What is the watershed? It's a land which collects water and let it into the discharge water at a common outlet. Here, just the river basins. When you go to this website, you can get this. About 20 river basins are there in our country. So the 20 river basins from the macro level to micro level. For example, if you consider the Vella River Basin, the area of the Vella River Basin is 7,500 square kilometer, whereas the micro watershed, it may be less than 1 square kilometer. Here, what is the use of the remote sensing? What is the remote sensing? That is, remote sensing is, it is taken from the nature, the human sight, smell, hearing. Suppose, for example, you are at your home. Now, your mom is preparing some onion bhaji or chicken 65. From the drawing room, you will get the smell. Something is going on in the kitchen. That is without seeing that, by smell, you are getting it. So that is nothing but the remote sensing, even recognition of word. Suppose happy, when you see the word happy, Happy, then you will recall you will pronounce it as the happy. So these are the natural examples for remote sensing. So that technique is used first in defense. Here, without touching the object, using some device. The device is nothing but a sensor, like our eyes. Sensors are nothing but well-equipped eyes, optical lens. So we can get, using remote sensing, we can get the qualitative and quantitative information about the object. With that object is in remote area, from that we are getting. I think when you see the history, in Trios is the first satellite. From that we got the remote sensing data. When you talk about the types of remote sensing data, we got the aerial, that is the very first. They have used balloons in ocean in olden days. They have used a balloon for getting the aerial photographs. Then now we are using satellites. The satellites are with multi-spectral sensors, MSS. So we can get number of layers, number of bands, the information. So overlaying all the information, we will get a very good database for a particular area. And when we list the applications of remote sensing, it's infinite. It starts from agriculture, environmental engineering, or water resources engineering, and hydrology, soil erosion. Even we can go for the crop yield forecast, what we are facing now. The crop yield forecast before harvesting, we can be able to forecast what will be there, how many tons of paddy, how many tons of wheat we can get this year. So even all the topics you can note down whenever in question session, if you ask what are the how can you apply the remote sensing, I can be able to answer for your things. See, am I audible? Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am. Audible, ma'am. Voice
Okay.
Audible.
Okay, thank you. Shall I proceed?
ma'am. Proceed.
Let's see the advantages and disadvantages. When you talk about the advantages, it's enormous. We have only few disadvantages. That may be the cost, the equipment's cost, and we need the skilled persons. The training must be given for using the remote sensing software as well as the GA software. But once the data is created, a database is created, and layers are created, that can be used for 100 number of projects. So that is the best benefit. And if we can cover, suppose if we go for the conventional surveying, within a day, we can be able to cover 50 square kilometers. But here, we can cover more than 1,000 square kilometers. But the thing is, we have to collect the remote sensing data from the authorities. Approved authorities, we have the IRS and the Survey of India. From them, we can purchase. We have a very good source of getting the data. Just the introduction for the UG students, I have included a few slides. What is an electromagnetic wave? It's nothing but at right angles, the electric field and magnetic field. It propagates at the speed of light. So that is the EM wave. From that, we are getting the EM spectrum. This EM spectrum, there are the three important regions which are very useful for the remote sensing technique. The first one is the visual range, second one is the infrared range, and third one is the micro range. Other regions they are related to other fields of study. So the visible range, infrared range, and micro level range, they are very important for having the remote sensing technique. An ideal remote sensing system technique must have these 4 components. One is the source of EM energy, the medium, that is the atmosphere for traveling through that atmosphere. Then the object we have to, what are the objects we have to study? It may be an object, it may be a phenomena, even the forest fire we can get, the flood inundation area we can able to get, or whatever the disaster, even the nuclear plant disaster in Japan happened, no, that also monitored by the remote sensing only. Then the very important one is the sensor, which is used for observing as well as detecting EM energy. Then this is the slide for the components of remote sensing. We have the important, this is the source of EM energy that will come and that will impact on the object of interest, and we will get the, even this is the, this will the provide during night the EM energy, and we will get it back reflected, and it will be accessed and we can process it. That is the recording system. Then the final database will be used for the application. So this. Then when you go for the platforms, it's as I discussed, it starts from the balloons to now the satellites. Here, what are the types of remote sensing satellites? We have the geostationary satellites, we have the polar orbiting satellites. And this is the extent, the synaptic view of the, that is the area covered by the satellite on par with the aircraft. As the elevation of the platform plays important role, we can cover more extensive area in the case of satellite than the aircraft. We have the spectral signature. What is meant by spectral signature? As we are unique, we are human beings, but we are unique. Each and every person has their own characters, own that is the composition. Similarly, whatever the object on earth, they will behave, they will respond in different way with the each and every object. So each and every object has its own ability to respond the EM radiation. That is called the spectral signature. So here when you consider water, that is we have the ranges visible, infrared and other ranges. In that the water behaves like this. That is the reflectance is more or less that is smooth. When you consider the vegetation, it is doing like this. That is there is a lot of change in the reflection. So now let us go the introduction on geographic information system, and we have this A2 collection, maintenance, then storage, analysis, output, distribution of.
Chennai city is very big and it's an area or how.
Participants, kindly mute your audio.
Participants, kindly mute your audio. Madam, proceed, madam. Madam, proceed, madam.
Okay, there will be separate session for the questions, I think. Okay, just how the basic concepts of remote, that is the geographic information system. This is the layer which is the real world. It consists of rivers, it consists of roads, it consists of residential area, it consists of cropland. But you can, using GIS, you can prepare, you can create 100 numbers of thematic layers. What is a thematic map? Which depicts any one of the parameter of the real world. Suppose geology map means geology will be there. Soil map that will give the types of soil, and the road map which contain. So from the real world, we can prepare 100 numbers of thematic maps. That is the basic concept involved in the geographic information system. And one more advantage, we can use the geographic information system for spatial and non-spatial data simultaneously. That is the main advantage when compared with the CAD. So here, what is the spatial data? For example, your seat at your class, the location of seat at your class is the spatial data, and your biodata is the non-spatial data. So this is a simple example. Even I can give the location of observation well is the spatial data. Then the description of the observation well is the non-spatial data. And we have the concept, basic concepts, and how the grids are formed, how the topo sheets, that is very important. If you want to know more about the topo sheets, you go to the Survey of India website, you can get a lot, and how the grids created, how the projection, because what is it meant by projection? Map projection plays important role in the geographic information system. Map projection, here the cylinder, actually the spheroidal globe is converted into plain area. So there will be some distortion. It may be in distance, it may be in area, it may be in direction, it may be in shape. But we have to select the type of projection which gives that is a low level of distortion. That is very important. So we have cylindrical projection, azimuthal projection, and so on. So this is a simple diagram for the components of GIS. Here there are the two important components. One is the hardware component, other one is the software component. Then we have the hardware component as usual as the computer system. Software component, the different software available. Now we have a lot of open source of software. We need not to buy. We can get it and we can use it for our projects. So data. But what is the use of this GIS? People. All the information system, whatever we create, that must be people friendly, so user friendly. So in such a way you have to develop. So nowadays we started using all the apps. They are only information system. So these are some of the important components. What are the subsystems? The hardware components. And also, how do you give the input to presentation, output? That is here I want to give you one important point. That is, we can give number of sources. That is the possible. It is not so with the other software. In GIS, you can give any type of input as input data that can be processed within the GIS. And we can get number of output also. It may be a map, it may be a table, it may be a figure, it may be a text. So that is the main advantage of geographic information system. As the remote sensing system, the data is voluminous, we have to rely on only geographic information system for analysis and presentation. Here in geographic information, 3 geographical entities are mainly used. One is the point, line, and polygon. Example per point, location of any place. For example, your house, location of your house, location of temple, location of the railway station, location of observation well, rain gauge station, whatever the thing. That is industry, location of industry. Then lines, it may be any network system. That is the drainage system, railway lines, highway lines, they are coming under that. The polygons are nothing but the cropland. You can give the river, pond, reservoir, whatever the polygon that you can give. So these are the tools. We can discuss the introduction of a remote sensing GIS for a day. That's not possible. So I am just confining the points. That is the tools. These are the tools available. You can carry out all points, whatever I have given in this slide. Everything possible with the GIS. The capacity of GIS is, we cannot assess that level, it is there. Then, as we told, we discussed the tools. So remote sensing and GIS are the excellent tools. We can go for monitoring exclusively, spatially and temporally. What is the spatial? Spatial means with respect to the location. How do you get the location? By the latitude and longitude, geographic location, even the pin code, what we are using, that is also location, the spatial data. Then temporal data means particular, that is as there is a calamity. Even now, what is the COVID-19? The spreading of COVID-19, we can give it as a map, how it spreads, what are the areas prone for the COVID-19. All those things you can carry out by the GIS. Even they are giving the maps using this GIS only. Now, what is the difference between remote sensing and GIS? Remote sensing is a pure technique and which is used for data acquisition, whereas GIS is a tool that is used for the data analysis and presentation. So if both these things are integrated, you will get a solution for any complex problem related to any field exclusively in water resources engineering. So today I will discuss few case studies. Some of the slides I will rush off because you must know what are the possibilities, what are the things you can do with the remote sensing as well as the GIS, and you must few things you note down the slides. All the slides are having number. Whenever you have just note down in coaching session, we can discuss what are the point you want to know in detail. Okay, here few case studies. First thing, the quantitative and qualitative assessment of water resources. It may be a surface water or groundwater. And the other one, the assessment, soil erosion. In hilly areas, soil erosion is the main problem, biggest problem we are facing, because most of the hilly areas is a hard rock area. The thickness of topsoil may be about 30 to 40 centimeter only. So if the soil erosion is there, automatically the topsoil will get eroded and we will get the problem of cropping. Cropping will become biggest problem in hilly areas due to soil erosion. It must be controlled. So you must know the soil modeling of soil erosion that we will discuss, and the change detection of land use land cover. Now, even you think your own village or your own place, you just your date of birth may be 90 or 2000. In 2000, what is the mapping? That is, what are the land use? Because in my place, when I was a child, I have seen a greenish background around my area, but now no greenish area, everything converted into residential. So that is the land use land cover change. This will create a lot of problems in the water resources. Now we are facing the crisis is only for the non-availability of fresh water and also potable water. That also this is very important. This is a very good project you have to do. And groundwater recharge zonation mapping, because it's a thing, it's obvious. Whenever you discharge water from ground, you have to, of course, you have to go for the recharge. That what we are going for the rainwater harvesting system. That is the one more important point. And also the check dams, number of gullies, percolation ponds. So you have to select the best place at which you can go for the recharge structures. That is very important. And the assessment of groundwater potential. What is the availability of groundwater? What is the availability of surface water? That also you can go. And you can even, it's a disaster management case study which is related to disaster management. In a tsunami affected area, when we got the tsunami in 2004, to December 2004, we got the tsunami. So the tsunami affected areas, we had the project, and we conducted and we produced as the case study. And I have taken coastal watershed, and I have taken a rural watershed, and I have included the mod flow. How can you apply that? And so let us see. So the first one, the integrated approach, as I discussed earlier. So here, what is the watershed database? Whenever you go for remote sensing JS, first your step must be watershed database. So it's an example for watershed-based database. What the topo sheet and data path and route. This is the with respect to the satellite and where do we get the source. Always we have to acknowledge the source of data. That is very important. This is an example for observation wells. There are observation wells. We get very good network of observation wells in our Tamil Nadu. So you can collect the day, that is the monthly groundwater level, monthly groundwater quality data from the Institute of Water Studies, Taramani, or even in Central Groundwater Board, they are maintaining very good system of that. You can to estimate the stream order. This is the main stream order is the 5. There is a tributaries, and I think you can refer that in Google. How do you find the stream order of the drainage system? Here, these are the tanks available. This is the Calroyan Hills. This is the steady area. This is the Gomeki watershed, the steady area. So here I have given the 5th order, 4th order, 3rd order, 2nd order, everything possible with the JAS. So geology map, 2 types. Then geomorphology map, it has the lineaments because the hard rock area. This area is the hard rock area, so we have the lineaments. And you can give 3D view. That is also possible with the software. So this is the modeling, surface water modeling. Here, using NRCS, National Resources Conservation and Soil Conservation, USGS method, we can able to find the surface water modeling. That is how the surface water potential is in particular watershed. These are the mini watersheds. So that is that modeling I have done in collected data from the remote sensing and carried out in the GIS software. Here you can go for the contour mapping. This is the groundwater level fluctuation, how it goes. So I have collected data from the Tamil Nadu Groundwater Board, and that is implemented here, and using the software we have calculated. Then this is a potential map. Here with respect to the Thiessen polygon map is created with respect to the observation wells, and we can able to get the potential. As I told earlier, the soil modeling, soil erosion model. That is, soil erosion model is carried out the RUSLE, but the revised universal soil loss equation. Here there are 5 factors, RKLSCP. R is the rainfall erosion, then K factor, slope factor, crop management factor. All these layers are overlaid, and we got the soil erosion intensity map, where the dark one is the moderate and very severe. This is checked because ground truthing is very important in remote sensing GIS. Ground truthing is carried out. We have to go to the field and we have to collect it, and we have to evaluate the results obtained by remote sensing GIS. So ground truthing very important, friends. Please note down that also. So next topic, the change deduction of land use land cover. Here, temporal data. We have to collect the temporal data from remote sensing, and the different, these are the land use land cover. Well, the difference between land use land cover, land use is the artificially man-made, land cover is the natural. That is, for example, land use is nothing but the cropland or the residential area, whereas the land cover is the grassy land, salty pan, and swamp. They are the land cover. So you have to collect the temporal data. All these temporal data here, this is the particular one this is a single and double crop area. So we have to collect the data, imagery during the single crop area, there is a place, and also double crop location, and they are overlaid, and so that you can get this. So this is the table. Whatever we collected by applying remote sensing GIS, in table form you can get it. For example, if you consider the forest land, what is the change? That is the percentages get reduced to 2.63. So an example I have given. So when you consider the settlement, it is increased. Obvious, now it's what is going on here. Even cropland is, it's a healthy one, it get increased. So next one, as I told earlier, we have to pick out the areas at which we can go for recharge structures. So here also we have to overlay 5 thematic layers and the base map, geology, geomorphology map, hydrological soil map, and note down what is meant by hydrological soil, which is nothing but the soil. We have different soil. All the soils are grouped as 4 classification: Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D by the USGS based on the runoff potential and infiltration index. So the hydrological soil, slope, runoff potential, all these thematic maps are overlaid, and we can able to get the areas which are capable for very good, that is favorable for recharge, highly favorable, moderate, less, and poor. So poor area, you should not go for any recharge structures. Okay, so integration, this is the, you can add statistical, analytical values with the GIS software. Here, the CIS, Cumulative Index, Statistical Index method is used, and we used to give the ranking. For example, you have so many friends, but your dearest friend will be one. So you will be giving more weightage to that friend than others. Similarly, here also, whatever the thematic map, it plays important role in finalizing the recharge zones. That will be given more weightage, more rank, and they will be placed, and everything will be incorporated in the Query Builder. We will be having in Query Builder. In Query Builder, we have to give these end conditions so that you can classify the polygons as poor, less, moderate, and high. High and moderate are more suitable for groundwater recharge structures. So this is the thing. So here I have the blue. Blue is the high. It is more favorable for groundwater recharge. Well, I have validated. Just it follows the river, the drainage pattern. Wherever the drainage, you have the very good zonation, groundwater recharge zonation. Even you can prepare the land capability map. How the land is a hilly soil, is it suitable for the cropping? All those things you can get. This is from the soil atlas. You can get it, and that non-spatial data is incorporated in spatial data. Everything here, this is you have the 3 layers. First will be the base map. Second will be the watershed map, mini and micro. This is the mini watershed, and we have the other one is the soil capability. So each map has the 3 layers. So the crop suitability, based on this, you can select the crop at particular place, and you can go for a very good sustainable agriculture. So the remote sensing and GIS helps us to go for very good sustainable agriculture. That is also a tool. So this first case study, from that we can go for micro level study, and we can go for the important components of watershed. These are the important components. One is the surface, that is water, soil, flora and fauna, and people. Here we have included the 3. So we can go for periodization. What do you mean by periodization? Suppose in a family there is a 6th child. weak child is there, more importance will be given to the sick child so that he can be brought out, he or she. So in that case, here also, we will categorize the mini and micro watersheds. They need more care from the authorities. So that is very important. Suppose the watershed is very good. It has very good surface water, groundwater, and so there is no soil erosion and potential, everything very good. Then you need not to spend more amount for that. So periodization of watershed also carried out by this method. Then let us go for the case study 2. Here we are going to apply in tsunami. This is I have taken this as the disaster management. How can you apply remote sensing GIS for disaster management? Here, this is here I have to acknowledge the UGC. So UGC sponsored a major research project and we have carried out in the 2007-9. And at this period, I have to thank Dr. Ravi Shankar, my research scholar, also the professor of Annamalai University. Here, the impact of tsunami on quality of soil and water resources of coastal areas of Tamil Nadu, a case study. Here, just important point. What is that? It has caused devastating damages to the structures, water bodies, people, everything. So the groundwater get polluted, the saline water get intruded, and crops get drying or scorching. Then debris for the about 1 kilometer from the coastal line. Then the deposition of saline soil, because we visited after tsunami, we visited after a few months, and most of the lands are covered with saline soil. They cannot go for cropping. That is the main problem they faced. They don't have potable water because all the wells are the saline water get intruded. So they faced a problem in getting a very good livelihood after tsunami. So this natural disaster here, then one of the taluk, Vedana taluk is taken and data collected. There is a water sample, surface as well as groundwater. Then the soil data, they were collected and we tested for their quality. These are the tsunami prone areas of Tamil Nadu. In that we have taken the Nagapattinam district as we have the data earlier, and we at least there is a 70 years of data we had. So we presented UGC and we got the project due to that only. Here, tsunami affected here, this is the description. Whenever you go for that, you must describe the steady area, what is the area, what is the location, and the river drainage, what will be the rainfall, the climate, geology, and all those things we have to go. And we have to provide the methodology. Here we have collected primary data, secondary data, and using GPS, what you are having. Now we can use our cell mobiles as the GPS. So, and also we have the secondary data from Survey of India topo sheets. That is the very important secondary data, with that only we will proceed with the remote sensing and GIS. So the spatial and temporal data is presented in GIS environment, where we have collected the data, soil, and other things. So the quality about surface, the groundwater samples were taken using ILWIS package. We can able to get the spatial variability of groundwater quality. So these are the locations, sample locations. And we can able to get, that is 70 to 2005, what are the change in all those things. EC value, that is also taken care, that can be presented and you can compare. So this is a long comparative study. So this is for the chlorine, this is for the sodium, and this is the table, important table. which I presented. And for the UGC, there is a 70, what is the pH, EC, CE, chlorine and sodium. But after tsunami, fortunately we got the result, and you can compare with the post standard. It is extensively change in the, what is that, pH as well as the EC compared to other parameters. So, but due to flash flood, the quality of water as well as the quality of soil is improved naturally. So we must thank the nature for this. So we can go for the remedial measures. So as we discussed, next we will go for the case study in coastal watershed. So far we have seen the land watershed, inland watershed, and tsunami affected watershed. Now let us take coastal watershed. Here, for this watershed, they have used remote sensing data, and in GIS environment, all the data analyzed and presented in such a way that we can be able to get the quality as well as the quantity of surface water, groundwater. We have used the GEC norms, groundwater estimation methodology, recommended by the Central Groundwater Board. Then also very important one thing, the freshwater seawater interface is evaluated in this particular case study. For that they have used the georesistivity survey. And also, so here the qualitative, and these are the things we have. This is the elaborative research methodology of this, how each and every step is carried out. Collection of data, then the data will be analyzed and we can get the various maps, and all those maps will be integrated to get a suitable strategies and recommendations for the sustainable development of coastal watershed. So here they have used the spatio and temporal behavior of the groundwater quality parameter, suitability of groundwater, delineation of surface water lithology, assessment of groundwater potential, identification of freshwater saltwater interface, then all those things incorporated to get the things. So this is the description of the study area. It's the Adapa watershed is taken. This is a coastal watershed taken for the study, and the description is given. The area covered is about 700, and the sources of this, and what is there with respect to mean sea level, the elevation of the watershed. This is the map, index map of the watershed. This is example for base map. Base map is one which includes all the important salient features of the particular topography, a particular area. So here we have used the reserve forest, we have the important things, and reserve forest area. Kodiyakarai area, this is the. So what is the geomorphology? Geology map. These data are collected from the remote sensing, Institute of Remote Sensing, ERS, and Nine University. So we have to acknowledge them. This is the hydrological soil map, ACD, with respect to the runoff potential and hydrological soil. Based on the Daniels land cover map. So we can go for the qualitative assessment as we discussed. These are the sample. We can give the sample locations like this. So after registration After projection, you can able to get the geographical values, latitude, what is the latitude, longitude for each location, so that you can incorporate in the base map. And this is the spatial and temporal mapping, how the pre-monsoon and post-monsoon, the pH changes. So that is also. So here, non-spatial data is taken, spatial data is taken, they are incorporated, and we can able to get the data. So these are some examples for EC, for TDS, for TH, total hardness, sodium, chlorine. So here, the important point, the different topic, what we are going to see is geophysical investigation. That is a vertical electrical survey. We have the geophysical equipment. Using that we can go in. That is, I think, exploration of groundwater resources. You could have studied this waste locations. So waste locations are selected, and we have the software, exclusive software, Surfer and Rinvet. So by including all the data, we can carry out. So this one is having very good compatibility with the remote sensing in GIS. So waste locations overlaid on Google Earth map. So these are the waste locations, just spread equally in the study area. So investigation waste 1, waste 2, even you can make the 3D mapping, that is possible. And how we can, with the values from the true resistivity and the thickness of the layer, we can interpret the lithology. That is very important. Lithology is very, interpretation of lithology, indirectly we have to carry out. That is possible with this georesistivity survey. So isotransverse resistance, using that, we can able to this, with respect to that, we can get a groundwater potential. We can categorize as poor, low, moderate, good, or very high. Similarly, throughout the watershed, we can carry out, this is the consolidated report of the georesistivity survey, and we can able to incorporate the lithology and the groundwater potential. We are having very good compatibility. So we can able to get it, and we can, with the lithology, we can incorporate, we can estimate, evaluate the groundwater potential. So here, this is the diagram which shows the fresh and the salt water interface. It goes like this, the blue line, dash line. So I think 4.24 with respect to the locations. So this is possible with the georesistivity survey only. Now we have to go for the groundwater potential discharge. Already we discussed in the first case study 1, but here I have to include this topic. This is the criterion table. How you are giving the thematic maps, how the weightage is given, how the class is there, how the ranking is there. Here, this is carried out with reference to the expert recommendations. Expert team, already they have coined the standard table, criterion table for the hard rock area and soft rock area. Then you can be able to form the criterion table. Based on that, you can see the groundwater prospectus, whether the area has very good groundwater or not. That is the amount of quantification. Quantification we can carry out. Groundwater. So this is the delineation area, poor and moderate. Here, after getting this map, we have gone for the ground truthing, and we have checked wherever here, these are the areas, those areas are not suitable for recharge, whereas these areas are moderately suitable for recharge structures. So always when you go for remote sensing GIS, you have to go for ground truthing. That is very important. So we have to go for validation always. then only your modeling is good. So we have gone for that and we have checked about 43.1% of the total area falls under the poorly suitable zone, whereas 56% the steady area falls under moderately suitable zone. And this moderately suitable zone, you can go for construction of groundwater recharge structures. So next one, the last case study, that is for just a few minutes. தண்ணியில் என்னோட photo இதுல வரலையே. Video. Video from here. The case study 4, here I am going to highlight the important aspects of mud flow. Here, this is the description of the steady area. We have selected the lower Ponayar subwatershed. This is my PhD scholar's topic. Dr. Sridhar, I have to thank him. Now he is the associate professor in Rice Krishna College of Engineering and Technology, Karnataka, and he has carried out this fantastic study. Here, this is the important watershed. So watershed database. Here we have to go for survey of topo sheet. Always is the reference. Then the remote sensing data that is collected from the Anna University. And the 16 years of groundwater level. Because the in water resource engineering, the main problem is the data collection. We cannot get the data with respect to the rainfall, observation wells, and other water resources related parameters due to the lack of availability as well as the consistency. So, if you include more years, that will be very useful for your analysis and to get a very good, reliable result. That is very important. So, we have to thank the source, the data source here. The rain gauge station is the collector, then the secondary data also collector, then the primary data is carried out. So these are the maps already what we discussed. This is the fully village map. So overlay. Here this is another, it's the sedimentary rock area. So here the criterion table will be completely different from the previous case study. Here the lineament density, drainage, slope, land use, soil, geology, geomorphology, and the ranking, how they are given. That is discussed. So as I discussed earlier, the groundwater estimation methodology, 1997 by the Central Water Commission. Now we are using that only. It's a mandatory to use it for estimating the groundwater potential. So these are the parameters we require. All these parameters can be incorporated in the GIS environment, and you can do you can prepare thematic maps and also the virtual maps. So this is the flow chart which shows the methodology used for this study. Here the primary data collection, which includes GPS survey, groundwater samples, geophysical survey, as well as the pumping test is carried out to estimate the aquifer parameters. So that will be useful for visual mud flow. How to run the visual mud flow? For that we need the aquifer parameters, so that you can carry out from that, you can get it from the pumping test by conducting pumping test. And data, there is secondary data, whatever the data we collected, remote sensing data, and also government departments. From that we can able to get the delineation of groundwater potential zones, recharge estimation using GEC norms, and everything incorporated to get the very good strategy for groundwater resources sustainable development. So the modeling, this is the new topic here. The visual mod flow is used. Why we prefer visual mod flow? It is more compatible with the ES environment. You can import the maps. So that is possible with this. So it's a mathematical model. And we need the following. To run the visual mod flow, we need the following parameters. We have to conduct the pumping test, aquifer parameters, geology and hydrological setting of the steady area, and the model parameters and the calibration, then model validation, and the different scenarios which includes future stresses. That is prediction. The modeling is useful for prediction of groundwater level available at the area. So pumping test is carried out. It's a field primary data collection. So 3 wells taken for the study. And these are the locations of the pumping wells spread over the study area. Then only we can get the reliable answer. So the parameters are we have calculated and the data are given. Specific yield we want, permeability we want, and these are the parameters we require to run the mod flow. So the base map is imported. The base map which we prepare in GIS will be imported to the mod flow, and it is here. It is described into 60 rows and 80 columns. So,
Madam, 1 minute, madam. PPT தெரியல madam. ஒரு 5 minutes தெரியல. சரி நானும் சர்ச் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன்.
ஐயோ சாரி மேடம், சொல்லுங்க, நீங்க தெரியுமா சொல்லுங்க. நான் தெரியுறேன் மேடம்.
நீங்க தெரியுறீங்க மேடம், பிபிடி தான் தெரியல.
எந்த ஸ்லைட்ல இருந்து தெரியல மேடம்?
இந்த கேஸ் ஸ்டடி 4 சொன்னீங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒரு 2 ஸ்லைட் தான் தெரிஞ்சது. அதுக்கப்புறம் தெரியல. நானும் ஒவ்வொருத்தரையா ஃபோன் பண்ணி கேக்குறேன், பின் பண்ணுங்கன்னாங்க. நானும் தேடுறேன், இல்ல.
சரி சரி.
இதெல்லாம் பார்த்தாச்சு மேடம். இப்போ இதெல்லாம் பார்த்தாச்சு. இதெல்லாம் பார்த்தாச்சு மேடம்.
மெட்ரோலஜி
டேட்டா கலெக்ஷன்
இது
பார்க்கல மேடம். இப்ப இதுல பார்க்கல. ஜஸ்ட் நீங்க ரன் பண்ணி விட்டுருங்க. ஹலோ
மேடம், கேஸ் ஸ்டடி 4.
இது நீங்க கேஸ் ஸ்டடி 3 மேடம்.
Now visible, ma'am. Now clearly visible, ma'am.
Just wait a minute.
இப்ப விசிபிளா இருக்கு. இதெல்லாம் பார்த்தாச்சு மேடம்.
ஓகே ஓகே.
இதுவும் பார்த்தாச்சு. இதுக்கப்புறம் 2 ஸ்லைட் பார்த்தோம் மேடம். அதுக்கப்புறம் தெரியல.
ஓகே மேம்.
வேலிடேஷன் பார்த்தாச்சு. கேஸ் ஸ்டடி 4 தெரியல மேடம். இதுதான் ஃபாஸ்டா வரும்.
இதெல்லாம் மேடம் ஸ்டடி
சரியா பார்க்கல மேடம்.
இதெல்லாம் பார்க்கல. சரி. Okay. Now the last case study is the 4th case study is the rural watershed management, in which we will concentrate more on the mod flow, groundwater flow modeling. That will be carried out, and I will discuss more on those topics because other topics are already we discussed. So this is the description of the steady area, and we have the salient features base map. This is the base map. And the watershed database, we have used the Survey of India topo sheets, remote sensing data. Is it visible, ma'am? Ma'am?
Madam, visible, madam. Ipa clear iருக்கு.
Okay. And the various thematic maps, geology, geomorphology, soil, land use, land cover map, and drainage map, everything. we have to prepare, and this is the data collector. In data collector, and that is also shown the various maps prepared in base environment using remote sensing data. And we have this also we have seen already, but the salient feature of this I will discuss, because the case 3 is a steady area. This is the hard rock area. The criterion table will be different, because for sedimentary rock and the hard rock area, the criterion table will be different. So the data requirement for groundwater estimation methodology, this is recommended by the Central Groundwater Board, Central Water Commission, CWC, and we are using for estimating the groundwater potential of a watershed. So these are the data. It's an extensive data we require, but all the data we can able to collect few data primary, and most of the data secondary data that we can able to collect. So this is the methodology followed for conducting this research work. Here, the data collection, primary data and the secondary data, voluminous data we have collected, and everything incorporated to run the ModFlow, so that we can predict the future, and we can able to give the strategies. That is the case. Here, this is the important point we have to concentrate more. Here, the groundwater modeling using visual ModFlow. Here, this is the mathematical model. Here, finite element model is used. Here, we need the number of aquifer parameters. For that, we have to conduct the pumping test. So, for conducting this, running this visual ModFlow package, we need these following data. Very important. From the pumping test, we get the aquifer parameters, then the identification of geology. These are the maps will help us in, and also the parameters we have to get it, we have to calibrate, and we have to model validation. We have to go for model validation, that is very important, and we have to go for prediction at different scenarios. So from the pumping test analysis, there are 3 wells. These are the locations of the 3 wells at which the pumping test is carried out by the scholar, and the data collected and evaluated is presented, and these data are very important for running the visual ModFlow package. Here the specific yield and permeability, very important for that. So this is the screenshot of the ModFlow package after running after importing the base map, and it is discriminated into number of rows and columns. These are the things we can change. You can modify that as per your requirement. So the location of the pumping wells, pumping wells as well as the observation wells are shown here. So here, the aquifer parameters, they can be calculated. Important parameters are specific yield, total porosity, effective porosity, and storativity are assigned. So in the groundwater modeling, we have compared, because we have used this visual ModFlow as well as ArcSPAT. They are used with the parameters they run, and the groundwater flow is estimated and compared and also validated by the ground truthing. So for the model calibration, this is the model calibration graph, and we have the head versus time. That is so we have assumed the transient state calibration for running the model. Here about 7 observation wells. The prediction has gone. The prediction will help us to go, to oversee the future. So how the quality of the groundwater, how the availability of groundwater. So the comparison of the calculated and observed levels heads with respect to time. So for the validation, we have gone for the 2013 to 15 and compared with the calibrated model. That is the good match. So we can relay the result of mod flow for the steady area. So the flow model, this is the run by the groundwater, that is a visual mod flow, giving the groundwater levels. It is flowing, it is following the river, direction of the river stream, river flow. So this is more suitable. This is giving a very good result. So we can rely on this result. So from this, for this study, we can go for the holistic approach, an integrated approach to groundwater modeling, and the potential is that is potential area is assumed to be good is 50%. So the watershed is in comfort zone, and also hard rock area is found in the Adair. So the water quality is moderate, and but it is suitable for irrigation purpose. The groundwater level is in decreasing trend. It's alarming. 10 meter to 18 meter below ground level. That is due to the sand mining. This sand mining is the biggest problem in the steady area. So monitoring of sand mining that you can carry out by the remote sensing GIS, and also the recharge structures. We have to go for the recharge structures. So that is also carried out. The recommended areas for the recharge structures. Perspective map is the data collection. Pumping test is carried out, and this is a very important slide we have to keep in mind. How in 1960, just within few minutes, we got the water from the well. 80, this much of low figure. Now we even still we are using, we couldn't get the groundwater. Next, we will go for the open source. The few slides on open source, because now we have to. Ma'am, slides தெரியுதா?
தெரியுது மேடம், தெரியுது மேடம். ஸ்லைட் ஷோ போட்டுங்க.
Okay. So open source data. The software available at free of cost. So we can rely on that. Because in olden days we used to purchase ArcInfo, ArcView, ArcGIS. They cost more. But now we have the open source. So the students and teachers must know where do we get the open source software, so that we can implement in our project studies and we can apply for the projects. Because now the water crisis is the biggest problem, and we, the water resources engineers, play important role in that. So the open source is available, that is at free of cost. And these are GIS software. We have the quantum GIS. We will see here 5 minutes the demo on QGIS, how we can incorporate spatial data and non-spatial data, and we can use it. Even the quantum GIS is very simple. Even you can use in your tab, even your high-handed mobile, you can use it. So that in that level, we are very comfort in using the GIS software. But in olden days, when I was doing my PhD program, I need workstation to run the ArcInfo package, ArcView, GIS software. So now within the palm, in our mobile, we can run it. So these are the Cosmo and the GBSIL, UDIG, GRASS. They are the open source of GIS software. Then remote sensing software, ILVIS, what I have studied, that is what we have seen in case study 2, the tsunami affected area. We have used ILVIS only. ILVIS package is used for that. Then image, OSM, open, OTIX, all these things are helpful for open source of remote sensing software. So where do we get it? That is very important. In Google Earth Pro, we can get all the data. But it may be, we won't get the latest data, but that will be useful for our project work. For having UG project, PG project, we can have it. This is a Bhuvan's. It's a, what is that? Gift by our government to the people of India. The Bhuvan will give all the data related to the remote sensing, and if we have the data with that, we can use it for our analysis purpose. The Bhuvan is very important. You can go to that, you can see. Friends, note down the terms and you go to the website after this completion today or tomorrow so that you can feel comfort with the websites. The Survey of India is more than 300 years. From the inception, it plays very important role. It has conducted for 4 years the conventional trigonometrical survey, that is 1969 to 1972, and they have the topo sheets. Now it is not at all updated. It is not at all possible to update. So that 1969 to 1972 is kept as the reference. That is the standard topo sheet which is available for conducting our survey and compare the results. The Soil and Land Use Survey of India, that is also another resource for providing the data. So it is coming under Ministry of Agriculture. And also the micro watershed atlas maps are available, that is by the Department of Agriculture and Corporation, Tamil Nadu, that is also available. Then the course, that is also available in India. Then USDS is the United States Geological Survey, they are giving the data, and the Earth Data Login, and the Central Groundwater Board, that is also having the source of data. You can get it, you can able to get it, and the data government. Then Government of Tamil Nadu, State Government of Tamil Nadu, it is at Taramani, you can be able to get from the State Ground and Surface Water Resources Data Center. Thank you. Let us see.
Any questions?
Ma'am, just a demo on the
Okay. Video போடுறீங்களா மேடம்?
ஆமா, QG.
Okay. போடுங்க மேடம்.
Hi everybody, today we are going to see the basic demo exercises of your QGIS software or any research.
Madam, is it audible?
Select the area.
Madam?
கொஞ்சம் கம்மியா.
Audio.
Chosen either by opposite or random set.
இப்போ கொஞ்சம் பரவாயில்லை மேடம்.
வீடியோவும் தெரியுதுல மேடம்?
வீடியோ தெரியுது.
Here I am choosing the study area through the Google Earth software. So now I am opening the Google Earth software. This is the graphic interface of your Google Earth software. Then I am selecting my study area by searching in the search box. In this, using a ruler tool, I am displacing my study area. You open the toolbar, just keep it at left side, and you start to displace. Now I am started displace my study area. Similarly, it is showing the how much area we are displacing. Once completed, click it save box. You can give your own name. And click OK. will be save on your places and click right click and save places and save in any folder. I am saving in KML format. That is a format of the Google Earth Pro. Saving in desktop. Now my study area is ready. Then I open the QGIS software. It is an open source software. You can easily download from your website. That is the QGIS.org. It will take some time based on your performance of your system. This is the graphic interface of your QGIS software. Here, like other software, here also project edit view, all the menu are available. You can explore each and every menu bar. According to the QGIS, we have two data types. One is the raster data, another one is the vector data. Here I am going to open a vector data. For that I am choosing the open source manager, that is vector. In that second toolbar is the vector. I open the vector. Then I am selecting my KML format of the Google Earth image. Then I opened. Now your KML format is visible in your QGIS software. Nothing but I imported the KML format of image into your QGIS software. This is the polygon data. For your any study area, we want to choose the polygon. Vector data again classified into point, line and polygon. I imported the polygon data. Next thing I am going to import the point data. Again I am opening the same open source data.
In the 2 minutes hold.
Again, before I added in a vector tool, because that is a polygon data. Now I am using to import the point data using delimited text. Before I'm going to import the point data, whatever you collected the data from your field studies, just put it into the Excel file. Here I am conducted the field investigation at the 13 location, that is from 1 to 13, the corresponding latitude, longitude, and corresponding readings. Now again I am going to the delimited text bar. Now I am opening the same Excel file. Opening. Let X field act as a longitude, Y field act as a latitude. So all the point data are imported inside the boundary. We can choose your legends also here, labels also here. Left side is the table of contents. Whatever you added, it will be visible here. Right click it and show the labels. What labels you want, you can add it. Here I am adding the VS locations. Now it is showing all the VS location. This is the basic exercise of your GIS software. Maybe we are going to see the basic demo. And click.
Thank you, friends. Any questions from the audience? Hello, Mama.
Participants, any questions? Participants?
I can take in two ways. One is something you learned or nothing learned. What is the option? Participants, are you here?
Something learn.
Are you here? Yes, you can continue. Hello.
Participants, shall we end up? Madam, we had a wonderful session. The open source software, some of them asked for open source, a list of open source software. Can you share with us those softwares in the chat box? Very basic, easily understandable. Your lecture was very informative. Thank you, madam. Once again, on behalf of Civil Engineering Department, MIM College of Engineering and Technology, I would like to thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank all the participants for patient listening. Thank you, madam. A very, very informative session, madam. We had a wonderful time. Thank you.
And I thank all the participants.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, ma, thank you. Wish you all the best and try to follow whatever you learned today. That will be the very important thing I expect from the participants. And I think now we are facing the critical period. So stay safe. Meantime, you spend your time, use useful way to upgrade your knowledge. You can use the open source of software and you can implement its mini projects at your home and make use of it. And also I thank organizers and Sashikala Madam, Gokul Raj, professors of MEM College of Engineering and Technology for giving this nice opportunity. I thank my scholars, exclusively Dr. Ravi Shankar, Dr. A.V.C. Vallavi and Dr. Sridhar. Their contribution is remarkable in this presentation. And I thank my university for providing permission for conducting for this webinar. And thank you very much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Very informative session, ma'am.
Welcome. Thank you.